Gentlemen, welcome again to another. I'm excited to talk about this. It's all over the news, talking about AI. And one of the things that Succurri as an IT company is all about is understanding what kind of technology is coming down the pipe for everybody to pay attention to. And AI is a huge one. So this is part one of a two-part series, Smarter, Not Harder, a practical look at AI. So welcome, Grant and Andrew.
Yep. Thanks for having me.
Thank you.
Looking forward to the conversation. We're going to talk about a little bit of the history of AI and kind of how it came about. We won't spend too much time there, but this has been brewing for a long time. And then maybe take a look at where AI is today and where it's headed, looking at different benefits of AI and maybe some pitfalls or some things to watch out for. I know security is a big issue. And then we'll go through some real world examples of prompt. Now, there's as many prompts out there as you can imagine, and we just kind of want to give you a feel for a couple of different platforms because there are different platforms. And because this is a two-part series, we're going to be giving away something today, as well as the folks who hang on for the second part, another really cool giveaway. So we'll talk about that at the end, and we'll leave some time for questions and actually give you some tips as we go along. So let's get started. Curry, obviously, they're all about IT support, IT service, engineering. This series on AI is all about IT leadership. So how should you personally and your business be thinking about the use of AI in your business as it goes? Because every business is impacted, and I'll actually share some information. Of course, we share a recording of this on our YouTube channel, along with a whole bunch of other great conversations around how businesses should be using technology, anything from, cybersecurity insurance to AI to lots of different topics on managing your IT. So be sure to click out there and subscribe and check it out. Lots of good stuff. So let's talk about the history of AI, and I'm going to burn through this a little bit because there's not going to be a test, but I suppose everybody's heard of the Turing test. Alan Turing, back in the 50s, he published a test that really assesses a machine's ability to fool humans. Does a human recognize that it's talking or working with a machine? And if it doesn't, that's kind of the Turing test. Moving into the 1980s, you started doing, there was the word algorithm started coming about, machine learning. And then, of course, in the late 2000s, IBM's Watson won Jeopardy. And even before that, IBM's Deep Blue defeated an international chess player. So all this computing stuff is happening, and it's been going on for a while now. So fast forward 2025, AI is here. It's not coming down. It's here. And one of the things that's interesting, and the questions I want to start with you guys are, because you've seen technology come down, for business owners that are, computers in the, desktop computers, networked computers, mobile phones, the internet, and cloud and all those things. So maybe give us your take on AI, and is this different? Is it the same of just, smarter technology? Maybe give a brief little, history on what you've seen in technology come to businesses.
Yeah, so I'll start with that one. So in technology, there's always that level of novelty, the shiny toy that ultimately gets everybody really, really excited about a technology. The market starts showing, some interest, and people start spending a lot of money. And so that's been happening with AI for, probably the last 5 years, really significantly in the last 3 years. And it's no longer a shiny toy, right? It's not novel anymore. It's actually being put to use in just about every single platform you could ever think of. Whether having AI in a platform really provides a lot of value or not, that's a different story. I've seen a lot of different ways how it's being implemented. But we finally got to a spot where there are some significant time savings that come from the use of an AI platform. something we'll talk about here in a little bit. But I think that is the key differentiation when it comes to business, right? Is there an actual valid use in my business? Like, does it save money? Does it save time? And we've now got to that spot. Now it's really understanding the technology and how to implement it into our businesses to get those benefits.
Andrew, your take on how AI,
I
what's
mean,
going on?
looking at that timeline, basically AI is the overnights to get there, right?
Right.
And I think Grant's really, what the difference with AI, it's finally gotten to it, and a lot of value you get per person. That's majority how to practice. And so we are on a daily basis. My wife and I talk about whatever that like revel. So like we'll show you a bunch of prompts, but like I used one where I still formatted it beautifully. Going forward, get that modified. The difference is very prevalent, really. And so what I see happen, adoption of it not only heavily used now, it is going to get where you don't even know. There'll be a day when your kid, you didn't have AI. Like, did you go to the fire and like turn that you caught that night? So it's a major milestone.
Yeah, I wanted to show this piece of it. Not that we need to go geek out on, layers of AI, but I remember when I was first taking classes about how does a computer network operate? How does it all work? Well, it has layers of everything. And so it had gotten to the point where you could teach it you could teach students in college how, what does a network do? How does it work? How does it operate? And at a very technical level. So these aren't just toys anymore. They're actual architecture of the different layers, and the language models, essentially is a huge store of how AI grabs information and reasons out the next set of things and then spits it back to you. Action orchestration layer. So how does it interact with the different elements out there? And now it's starting to what they call persistent menu. It's remembering everything that you type into your AI, tool, and it can get into different types of software platforms, the internet, different data sources out there. So not only is it just maybe taking what you input, it's storing it, it's learning over time, and that's why it's happening. Things are getting more prevalent, happen a lot faster. So you think about AI adoption. This was a funny thing because we were like, oh, I searched on the internet, give me AI adoption. And what it came up, what Google came up with was what was going on in 2024. And basically at that point in April 2024, which wasn't very long ago, the survey was about 5.4, so 5%, 6% of the companies that were out there were prevalently using AI. Fast forward a little over a year, 78%. So what are they doing with it? Well, they're gathering data, they're having it analyze data. So Andrew, you were talking about, oh, here's a bunch of gobbledygook information that I would normally spend hours trying to figure out. You can have AI organize it for you. Creative types of things. If you have to write emails or even blogs, or you have to create imagery. There's all kinds of things that you can do. It's almost, limited to your imagination. And of course, automating, which we're not going to get into too much today, but just in your world in the IT space, tell me, Grant, when we started talking about AI adoption, what went through your head?
Yeah, I mean, me, I tend to go to the security side of things first, right? And it kind of goes back to one of the webinars that we did, it was over a year ago, about the weaponization of AI and the automation of the tool sets that are used for hackers, and basically applying AI methodologies and LLM models, or the language models, the brain of the AI, to that, where it becomes extremely efficient, dangerously efficient. And so that's always where I go to. I mean, obviously, I have security brain, right?
Yeah.
But from a business perspective, the automation portion of it is huge, because you point out, like, you can attach it to all these data sources, right? So you think about attaching it to like your email, attach it to your different file shares and things like that. And so now it starts collecting all this information, and now you're able to start doing things that you do on a day-to-day basis, and it intuitively helps you out. So it kind of off topic, but I was working on a CRM system today, and I wanted to create a dashboard to show some very specific information, and it was for marketing. And I was like, okay, I need a dashboard to show me all the different companies that have 2 people in it that have unsubscribed from my emails. And it said, sure. And it wouldn't just whipped out the dashboard in a second. Like normally it would take me, probably 30 minutes to create that dashboard, and just popped out for me. And I'm like, oh, that's cool. Like I live in this place, and I still am like finding like the kind of the aha moments that Andrew was talking about of like the latest prompt that you did that now just saves you tons of time. And I'm like, I don't think I'm probably that like, I'll probably have to tweak some dashboards on my own from time to time. But like the fact that it just put all the fields together that I needed and just spit it out, I was like, holy crap. It was cool.
Yeah. Well, and it will show you here in a bit, but you can go to like a Chat GPT or one of these LLM platforms, and you can type it directly into that, or it's also built into a ton of tools that we use. Whether it's you're on the Google side of the fence or the Microsoft side of the fence, it's built into all different kinds of tools and different levels of it. The exciting thing is, and the why this is so prevalent, like I don't ever recall having, I mean, it was years before they, quote unquote cloud adoption, because it was limited by connectivity back then. If you think about accessing things from the cloud all over, the internet all over the place, it was very limited by connectivity in the early days, like 2002, 2004, right in there. And so adoption took a little bit longer to grab a hold. And then you have like this whole app, explosion, because, you've got 3G, 4G, 5G. I wonder when they're going to stop naming the numbers. It's like 72G, but AI is learning so fast. The adoption rate of this is amazing to me.
I think it comes down, like Andrew pointed out, the ease of use, right? Like the cloud adopting from the cloud was a little bit harder. You had to move technology and ultimately workflow up to the cloud, versus AI has actually come to the workflow and come to the workstation and come to the user on every single application and device that they have. And it just says, I mean, it's up to your imagination of what you come up with. Like sometimes you just have to start going in there and playing around and like, hey, if I ask it this question, what's it going to do, right? And I think that's one of the most intriguing parts of it, is that it's one of the easiest technologies I've ever seen to utilize.
Well, you can even ask it to tell you, which is a little bit strange when you think about it, but like, tell me the prompts I should ask for this.
Yeah.
What would you ask? And what's interesting, and we'll jump into this, but it's prevalent in every part of every business. And so I just kind of pulled up this stuff from Forbes. It started with customer service, like we've all experienced the chat bot. Well, and now when you call in, and we've all been frustrated, like, no, I want to talk to a human being. Give me, let me talk to a person, because you're asking me the wrong questions. It's getting better. I don't know if everybody out there has noticed it, and we'll ask some questions here and ask you to put some stuff in the chat. But customer service. Now, here's the next one, cybersecurity. Now, it's kind of a double-edged sword, because you can use it to protect yourself, but also bad actors are out there leveraging it. What do you like, the spoofing emails, or the no, not spoofing emails. What do you call it? Phishing.
Yeah.
All of that stuff's being automated now. It feels like we're in an ocean of getting spam calls and
well, even scarier, if you think about like the prompts, you can say create a crafted email for this specific person. Use their LinkedIn or their Facebook as a reference, and it'll go through and generate an email that is personally crafted towards that specific person with content information that they've talked about. So it's no longer just cast the wide net. It is a very, very targeted cybersecurity tool.
Yeah. But it's the wild, wild west out there, but it's all over prevalent in every part of the business. We'll take one more thing. Here's I put in here the QR code for that weaponized AI.
That was a fun one, by the way.
That was an amazing one. We had a great turnout. And some of the things you guys talked about, maybe you could just kind of, if you think back to what you guys were experimenting with back then, and maybe just give, because there's all kinds of things going on with AI, but you guys definitely took it to another level, and you kind of turned it on yourself, didn't you?
Yeah. So this is by far one of the things that I talk with clients probably the most. I think Andrew has a very similar conversation. We basically, what I did was I set off a controlled bomb in our own environment and let AI loose to see what it would do. And we live in we have a very secured environment, and it was able to get through our network in less than an hour and uncover administrative credentials on some old devices that basically we didn't know they were there. We knew the devices were there. We didn't know that the vulnerabilities were there. And was able to crack them open and took over our network in a half hour. I'm like, and this is like, I've gone through all the compliance regulatories. I can pass every test known to man. This found things that regulatory didn't cover. And so for me, it was a really eye-opening experience. And so that was kind of the point of us doing webinars, was like, we have to tell people about this, because if I'm a professional, I've been involved in cybersecurity for many, many years. And if it's able to do this on my network, I can only imagine what it's capable of doing on other people's networks. And so that was where the webinar came.
Yeah, and it, for us, I mean, it represented us. And just to clarify, there was a comment that my mic was a little quiet. Do I sound okay?
Yeah.
Yeah, you're great.
Okay. So for us, when Grant presented that information to us at an ownership meeting, he was visibly shaken by the results. I mean, you can't overstate the impact. It was worst case scenario for us. If it had been a malicious entity, they would have had everything. And so, like Grant said, we passed all the compliance requirements. What we realized is this was a new level of attack, right? And so the world is unprepared for it. So that's really what started this whole webinar series, is we wanted to start preparing the world, specifically our clients. And so we've spent the last year and a half talking with clients, educating them where we can, encouraging them to do more security, and not just the weaponized AI, but there's several other webinars about like password management. So like there's a wealth of free resources on the YouTube channel. But what Grant didn't tell you is he wanted a little pizzazz on that weaponized AI webinar. So he hacked one of our customers to basically show them how easy it was to get through their defenses. This was a bank, and we got in. It had everything, and it was trying to go down the tunnel to the federal bank. And we're like, okay, stop that. So, so that, like, what we realized is it was a whole different world. Now, this webinar is about using AI in a way that's really productive. So we should probably like move on from the doom and gloom.
Yeah, yeah.
We have to share, not scare.
Yeah.
There you go. There you go. Healthy paranoia is,
yeah.
I say it all the time. So, there's 8 gazillion use cases for exam prompts. Here's just a few ideas. So meal planning, analyzing data, drafting different emails, budgets, optimizing routes for jobs. So if you have a service company and you have, oh, here are the 12 jobs I have to do, and here are the addresses of what's my optimal route? There's all kinds of things that we can do, and depending on the platform, so I kind of wanted to, just learning how to do this part on here, but here's Copilot. I'm going to show you what a few different prompts are that Grant entered, and then I'll show you some prompts that I entered into ChatGPT, and just show you kind of just the different things that you might get. And let me see if I can play this. Is this going? There's no sound, by the way, so if you're not hearing anything.
So what you should be looking for is the prompt at the bottom just asked Copilot a question. So
yeah,
that went by pretty quick there, Tony. Maybe you can scroll to the top where you can see the prompt.
Well, it does go by fast.
It says draft a professional reply thanking a customer for their feedback. So leveraging that, write an important email.
Now here's one thing that is interesting about AI that I think everybody should know. And that is, you have to review what it produces. You can't just copy and paste. And I don't think people are doing this, but there are times when you might have to prompt it multiple times.
There are people that are just doing that. There's actually been some court cases where AI has actually created fictitious court cases, and they've been referenced in proceedings. So it does happen where people are not checking the work. They're like, oh, perfect, it spit it out. One example of that was I was watching the news, and they had a picture of Kilauea erupting, and I was like, oh wow, okay, what? So I AI, what volcano is erupting right now? And for the people that are in Washington, it said that Mount St. Helens was erupting currently, like actively, and I'm like, oh crap. And so it's like I started thinking like panic mode. I'm like, okay, I need to get some water. Like this might get ugly. And then I went out to the U.S. Geological Society website, the government one, and it's like, no, there's no eruption of Mount St. Helens. So AI just told me that a volcano was erupting in my area and really wasn't. So that's something to keep in mind, right? Is that it's not 100%, and we're not that far off, right? We're a few years out from it being 100%, but there is still value from it now. Just check the work.
Yeah. Yeah, definitely. Here's another prompt. Create pros and cons list for outsourcing IT support for my engineering firm. And you'll notice it just cranks it. So that was that next prompt. I think, yeah. And it gives you, I think, the idea is that it helps move through things faster that you now get to evaluate as the human counterpart to this AI stuff.
One of the things I use it a lot is policy and procedure. I will be the first person to tell you that I am not great at writing long policy and procedure, but this will spit out the framework, right? And it'll give me all the points, and then you go back through. And so it shaves hours of time off of having to kind of think about, okay, well, what do I need to have next? It just puts the framework together, then I am able to go back in and fill in what's necessary. From when I think about like the governance, risk, and compliance side of it, which is almost all policy and procedure, there's a huge time savings from that. And so a lot of people that are being charged for security services, specifically for like managing that type of thing, this is going to save a ton of money.
Yeah. It also asks you follow-up. In this case, would you like more detailed information on any of these points? And do you have a specific concern about outsourcing IT support that you want to discuss further? You can have conversations with it. The other thing that that I've noticed is that when I give it positive feedback, like if I'm talking to another human, like, oh, thanks for sharing that information, that was really helpful. Be nice to your AI, I've heard it say. And I don't know if it makes a difference, but I do know that sometimes when I give certain prompts after I've been working on a few things for a while, it will tell me like, oh, this is great. It gives me positive feedback. So it's kind of funny that way. So here's another one. Checklists are great. Generate a new employee IT onboarding checklist for a roofing company. So when you're doing prompt, and there it is, new employee IT onboarding checklist, pre-arrival, account setup, hardware preparation, access. So day one, week one, welcome introduction, hardware distribution, laptop, initial setup. Now, week one, this was on Copilot. So Microsoft's thing and regular checklist. I'm going to jump to something that I had built it out. So here's the pros and cons list that you had, but I want to make sure. So new employee IT onboarding checklist for a roofing company. Notice how this is a little bit different, and it actually gives you the check boxes. So before the start date, create a company email account, set up a user, order, configure necessary hardware. So this is kind of a framework, but these checklists, first day setup, first week ongoing. So it kind of has a similar kind of thing. would you like me to also create a branded version you could hand off to new hires with your HR operations team? Now, it will ask you those things. And if I said, yes, create me a branded version, it doesn't know. It doesn't know what my version is. By the way, I've got a ton saved in here, so it's a little bit slower, but it's starting to create imagery. And as we sit here and talk, one of the things that you can do is create in ChatGPT is create GPTs, which are essentially a way to, I'm not going to bore you with this too much. We'll come back to it. But I'm wondering at this point, what, and maybe people can put in the chat, I had planned to have a survey up and ready to go, and I didn't get to it. So I apologize for that. But maybe people can put into the chat what kinds of things they're experimenting with in AI.
So
Using AI.
while we're having somebody do that, one of the things that I came across, this was actually and I can't take credit for it, was a idea on LinkedIn, but I thought it was brilliant because going back to Andrew has a real knack for words when it comes to the written language. Me, a little bit less. And so I was like, you'll see a lot of his posts on LinkedIn. They're well put together. And when I look at it and get ready to post, I kind of just go, what am I going to talk about? And so this prompt that I came across was somebody that said, hey, I'm going to have LinkedIn generate 30 days of content for me. I'm sorry, I'm going to have ChatGPT generate the content for me for 30 days. For 30 days of posting, and it talked about having raise the levels of engagement, talk about who I am, and it points out, look at my LinkedIn, look at my Facebook, look at my web page, talk about who I am. And so you put this into the prompt, and literally it spits out 30 days of different topics to discuss about who you are, what you do. And so you now have a game plan for a whole marketing campaign. I was like, I just looked at my jaw just dropped. I was like, are you serious? And so I've seen some levels of some significant success with people doing just that. Now, once again, you have to tweak it a little bit, whether you're changing the prompts slightly to get it, or if you're going back and doing some editing to kind of have it make a little bit more sense. But the fact that it puts out 30 days of content for you for your marketing generation was huge.
Yeah, it does crank it out big time. What's interesting, so I don't know, you can see this on screen. I didn't feed it anything about the Succurri brand at all, but it knows the name. And so here's an onboarding checklist done. Now you have to go in and read it and make sure it's true. I think one thing that I've heard somebody say, it's like you're dealing with an 8-year-old savant. It's really, really, really intelligent, but it doesn't have years worth of experience to know how to leverage that intelligence just yet. And so, when you create this checklist, if you just blindly take what it says and, here you go, hand it in, the funny thing is, I think that's a mistake. And the funny thing is I actually, when I'm using AI on certain things, I'm actually learning because it produces some things. And then I'm like, oh, really? That's the thing. And then I'll go out and I'll type something into Google, which is a first form of AI. So like
it's how the world knows how to do things.
Employee checklist template. So here's an ad, right? Google's doing lots of ads. So Rival HR, 10 employee checklist templates. So this is how we used to do it, right? Used to, I say used to. People would post this and you would search for it. Well, now you can produce your own custom stuff with AI. New hire checklist, onboarding. But the thing is like, let's take Workable, for example, onboarding checklist templates. So I would come to this place, presumably they have credit, clout, they know what they're talking about. I have to examine whether they know what they're talking about. I'm going to go ahead and accept all those. So I'll probably get HR stuff sent to me now a bunch if they're doing their job advertising.
Just blindly accepting buttons. Yeah, there you go.
So download the doc, but I also get a read. If they're doing a good job on the internet, they're talking about these different elements. And part partly where AI is getting this is on what's online. So the other thing I was going to show you is there are different, at least for ChatGPT, I'm sure this is the same for Copilot and Gemini. There are different versions, different models, good for writing and exploring ideas, faster for everyday tasks. One of the things that I do that helps is if I'm looking for information, I'm telling it to go out and gather this information every week. So this is AI news. I want to keep AI news in front of me. So let me see if I can. Yeah, here are fresh prompts for tasks for an AI agent team to complete this week, aligned with marketing, sales, new client onboarding. So what I'm trying to do is help me learn more about these elements of these different areas of my business each week. I'm a golf nut, so I've got top 20 golf topics and content prompts for 2025. I'm also looking for a rental property, so every week send me this kind of stuff. And it also gives you sources so that are out on the internet that it refers to. So there's a whole ton of stuff that you can be doing with this.
Well, and I think you pointed out something that I hadn't really thought about as well, is that you're having a trigger on schedules, right? So it's not just like, oh, I'm going to put something into the prompt and it's going to produce the content, right? You're having it saying, hey, every week I want you to do this for me. And now it is doing it for you. It's like a little mini assist, right? So I think one of the key points is that it's whatever your imagination is limiting, right? If you can think of it, throw it in there and see what happens, right? I mean, the worst thing to say is come back and say, I'm not capable of doing that, right? And that'll happen from time to time, but play around with it. That's the key. You're not going to break it.
Yeah, that's right. That's right. I just was in here, Gemini, on a Google Doc. We could probably pull up a Word document too, would do the same thing. But I just said, hey, summarize this document. We're working on the video production for Succurri and all the things behind it. So there's all kinds of different uses for this. And what I think what we're hoping to do in this webinar is really show you that there are a bunch of different ways to use it in your business and personal life. And then really our next webinar, we're going to get down to some specific elements of different pieces of businesses. AI use for businesses by department. So we're really going to get into specifics. So this is a real introductory kind of webinar. But I don't know, Andrew, what you and your wife, she's a physician, you guys have been digging into this. I threw a few things up on there. What can you do next? Well, what would you advise people to do?
Yeah. So if you don't mind, I'll share my screen for just a second. We'll run through some basic prompts items. So second here. Let me know once I can share it.
Yep. Go ahead.
So here, and can you see the ChatGPT window open now?
Yep.
Yes.
Perfect. So I'm going to turn my head so I can look at it. So basically what I would do is, if I get interested in something and I want information, so in this case, I'm currently redoing my workout plan. So when you're doing prompts, you want to give ChatGPT or the AI as much information to shape how its output looks. So in the prompt, like I said, you create a workout plan for a man. So that making it more specific. That's comprised primarily of compound movements. And then the role. So the role is a really critical part of your prompt. And in this case, I chose the role of a professional trainer. So that will shape how AI comes back and presents me this information. So this is the first pass, right? So I'll just hit enter, and it's going to take a second while it produces the information. But as you can see, it's now starting to put back in hey, this is your 4-day compound focused workout. So where this would have cost me a personal trainer to put together, now I've got this great output. So let's say I'm well, I really want examples. And I could say, and I'm always very polite with my AI. So you're like, please add links to example videos and your EOs and pictures of the.
Little
So
fun
it'll
fact while
go
it's
back and it
generating
will.
that.
What's
So
that?
did you know that being polite to your AI actually costs ChatGTP and Copilot millions of dollars in processing? Just a little. Yeah.
So now it's coming back with its results, and you can see here now I have in my upper body push, I have videos I can watch, and I have all the videos. So every exercise I can watch, like I produced this in 3 minutes, and this is now like a really high quality workout routine that I can start to use. The other one that I'm working on is we've kind of lost interest in cooking at our house, but we still need to eat. And so like you could say, create a seven. Oh, let's see here. We want to do from the perspective of a let's see here, personal chef. Please create a meal plan for 7 days. 7 days. And so I didn't give it a lot to work with. So we'll come back and start to add additional stuff. So it's coming back. It wants Mediterranean Monday. It's giving me breakfast, lunch, dinner, and a snack. Latin Tuesday, Asian Wednesday. Let's just say I want to add meat or like beef and chicken to 4 days of the week or meals. And so it'll rearrange it to then be better. And what you can actually do then is like we could enhance it where it comes back with recipes. And then I could ask it to create my grocery list from all the recipes, and it could output that and I could print it. So like that's a powerful tool. Like we pay like not me, but there are people who have personal chefs and like nutritionists, and that's many hundreds of dollars a week of like specific information. So ChatGPT can do amazing things. One of the things we're talking about a lot is people having the practical AI is getting people to use the tool. So for everyone who's listening, what I would tell you is by the end of this webinar, like so tomorrow or this weekend, go to ChatGPT online. Just go type in Google chatgpt.com. You'll have to create an account. Mine's free at the moment. And then just start putting in prompts, teaching it about yourself. Maybe go use Microsoft's Copilot, which is their AI. Play with that, see what you like about it. But at the very least, like if you're saying, how do I not get left behind in this AI revolution? One is start using the tools today. It's very easy. It's free. Learn how to prompt correctly, right? Like I showed you a couple of techniques from the perspective of someone. You create this kind of plan, add enhance to it, add multimedia capabilities to it, output that information in a way I can use it. So that like at a minimum, everyone can do that today. It's very easy. It's all natural language. You don't have to know how to code. You do have to know how to speak or write, but we're assuming everyone can do that. What we're seeing next would be then find the AI that you like and pay for an annual subscription of their paid version. That gives you the ability to save your searches. It gives the ability for the AI to remember who you are and start to like actually develop your preferences. What we're seeing coming down the pipeline though, and this is like, I'm saying months away, if not less, is I'm seeing people in the communities I interact with that are building these GPT models for like great thought leaders in the world. So let's say you are in athletics and you want to have someone coach you on how to best go through a routine or like some sort of play, let's say in football. So you can actually create a GPT, feed it a bunch of videos and written information from the best coaches in history, and then you can feed it your video and have it start to figure out where you're going wrong and give you suggestions. Where I've also seen it is like thought leaders. So if you want to get like a mindset coach, you start to fill in all of their, like feed the AI, all of their written, their novels and their various information. And then you can start asking it questions. So like you could have Sigmund Freud be your AI and start to, psychoanalyze you and help you through stuff. So that is very, very close to becoming commonplace. We are actually talking internally. Grant and I are business partners and the primary managing partner of the clinic, or not the clinic, the IT firm. And we find we don't have enough time to give people the answers that they need, but our answers are always really consistent. And so, like, we're talking about developing GPT models for ourselves that our staff can use to go ask the GPT model first. Obviously, if the answer sounds reasonable, they can go with it. If it's outrageous, they'll come and ask us. But all of a sudden now we're leveraging that so that I can magnify, like I could be at every employee's beck and call from that AI standpoint. So really powerful things coming down the pipeline. And then the other thing that we're seeing, and this is like more IT company specific, but we talked about automation, and we'll talk about this more in the second webinar. But we've spent a lot of time automating and connecting our various IT systems. And we're just at the threshold where we can plug AI in and start to see what it finds in our various systems. And so we envision a day probably within 2 years where tech support will be much more like high quality, very effective tech support will be driven significantly by AI. And so we're working towards that as of today. So I don't know. That answered a few more questions than you probably were looking for, Tony, but hopefully that was helpful.
No, I think it was great. Thanks, Andrew. I also realized I think Marissa was out there and she mentioned that that the chat was disabled. So I apologize for that. But Andrew, it looks like you were out there chatting with Marissa. She was saying that she primarily has been using it for communication purposes. But she's also said she generates data sets, which is similar. I did a research project for a dentist, cosmetic dentist out of Chicago, and he is evaluating whether or not he wants to open up a location in either Milwaukee or Dallas. Well, those are two big places. And inside of probably an hour, I had every piece of data that for a market research. What's the average dental spend per square mile? What's the average household income, individual average income, annual income? How far out is this suburb from the city center? Who are the top commercial real estate agent? How much does it cost to lease? All of that summarized in a set of data in a spreadsheet. And I even asked it to score it. And then I used that to have the conversation with a client. So there's all kinds of, and this was Chat GPT I was using that for, all kinds of information that you can gather and categorize. And it actually, when it produces it, then it's like, okay, I asked him the same questions about his locations. He had 5 in Chicago. Is this because he's the expert? I'm not the expert at running a cosmetic dentist office or clinics. He's the expert, and he knows this about his business. And basically, you start to compare, and then it not only did it tell me that and categorize it, it gave me sources on the internet, so you can go check those sources on the internet. Now it's like anything else, right? I was talking with my 87-year-old mom, and she was like, well, why do they call it artificial intelligence? And I said, well, actual intelligence comes from the gray matter, other human beings. And if you think about it, you have other human beings that give you information when you're talking to them on the phone or on a Google Meet or, a Zoom call. And if they're the expert, or they say they're the expert, you've got to go look them up. You got to go, well, who is this Andrew Ekstrom guy? What is he about? Well, the internet will give you all kinds of information, and now so will the GPT, so will AI. It's starting to look at that stuff online, and that it's basically pulling from all that information. So it's pretty powerful stuff, but I would still say, I think you've heard us say this a bunch of times. Make sure you're reading what output you get. Make sure you're still checking that stuff.
Well, yeah, from like the security side of it, there is AI poisoning that is happening, and so to get AI to produce information that is not exactly accurate, so something to kind of keep in mind that does exist. I mean, what you were talking about is pretty dang fancy. Like, I'm really more inclined to going down the route of like Andrew's food prompt, but with it, like, how can I lose 30 pounds and give me the menu, right? So, like, I was like, sweet, I'm gonna use that. But Yeah, I mean, check your work, right? That's the key. If something doesn't look right, it probably isn't. If a volcano, it says that a volcano is going to erupt, go look at the national websites to see if it's actually erupting, right?
Yeah.
Don't go into a panic.
But on the other hand, though, there's if you're not looking for it to like write your dissertation, there is a tremendous amount of value you can get from these tools, right? And what I think of it is this way. One is if you're on this webinar, you've shown interest in AI, which is great. And I highly recommend you go play with ChatGPT or Copilot and just start to practice with some of like these simple prompts. Start to think of your life in the way of like, hey, if I could get this information easily, how would that work? And all of a sudden you're going to realize, and you're going to start to listen to other people, and they're like, "Oh, I did this with AI." There's a lot of value. Like, what was it? 100 years ago when we built like the calculator, that didn't mean people stopped doing math. It just meant that the heavy lifting calculations were done by the calculator, and the humans still had to do the math. So now AI is doing heavy data management. The human still has to vet it and make sure it looks good. Maybe webinar 3 will be when AI truly becomes a digital sentience, and we have to have laws about like it's alive in some way. But I'm hoping I will not see that in my lifetime. So ultimately, like, what's that?
I think you will. Like, so Bill Gates made the comment that within about 12 years that AI will be capable of doing basically everything that humans can. So something to be, we're not that far off. We're not that old. I think that we're going to see a lot more in our lifetime than we'd ever thought of. So it'll be interesting to see how that plays out.
So let's open it up a little bit. We have a little time for questions. I think a lot of people out there are wondering, can you do this with AI, or how do you get it to do that with AI? What's your experience with this version of AI? A lot of people are testing a lot of different things, and that's great. If there's anybody that has a question, you can either put it, I think you can put it in the chat or the Q&A down below. We'll do our best to answer those, but also if you have ideas you want us to experiment with in AI, say, hey, what could you do this? What about a GPT for that? Those also fair game out there. Andrew, I really like what you were saying about teaching the GPT who you are and how you respond and what your knowledge base is, and where that comes from, so that over time you have a GPT that's almost functions as you. I thought was really interesting.
Well, and it's not functioning as you. It's like it knows all your preferences, right? So it's a hyper attuned personal assistant. One of the things I would tell people is, once you've done some playing with ChatGPT and you've bought the paid version, you should really get it on your phone, or like in any AI model. I'm using ChatGPT because that's the one I use in my examples, but like simple things such as you should ask AI for restaurant recommendations and get really specific. Like, I am feeling like steak tonight, and I love like, I want a mushroom dish, and I like to have the ambiance be quiet and like dim. What restaurants do this in a 3-mile radius I can walk to, right? Like that would take you an hour to figure out, and like multiple sites you'd be checking. And AI will probably come back and say, I think these are 3 great recommendations. And would you like me to call? Would you like me to dial the number for you? So, start using it on a daily basis, so it becomes really part of what fabric of your day.
Yeah, good point.
Just don't overshare. Don't put your social security numbers in there, banking information. You can leave the personal stuff out, but your preference on chicken or beef, I think you're gonna be okay.
Yeah. So I don't see any specific questions. We had several from Marissa earlier, which we answered as through. But what I would tell you is, if anyone is on the call and they wanted to chat more about AI, Grant and I would love to have a conversation with you. In a second, Tony, I think you're going to probably show some information on how to get a hold of us, and so we'd be happy to do that.
Yeah, I also want to let everybody know that today, if you want to get an IT cost savings analysis from Grant, we're offering that up for free. But I think more importantly, we've got part 2 coming, where we're going to dive in a little deeper with AI and give more specific examples. Very much business related. So we're going to dive into that. And folks who register for that webinar, obviously we'll send out emails and to our list, but you're going to be entered into a drawing to win some AirPods. So, everybody could use a new set of AirPods. I know I could, but I won't be able to win. So that's one of those things. And then, of course, if you want to go out and look us up on YouTube, subscribe there. We definitely encourage that. I now get all my Succurri stuff on my phone whenever it pops up. So it's kind of cool because you can keep track of that if when we produce content. We don't put out a ton, but we do some stuff every month. So that's not like we're putting it out every other day. I hate those, but I guess hate's a strong word. But it's kind of annoying, right? But every month I can handle. And so every time we put something out, you get a notice. So that's helpful. But we'll have that part two. And I really appreciate your time today. And thanks everybody for coming up. If you have questions for anybody on this, you could definitely reach out to Succurri. Go to succurri.com and you can hit the contact button and reach out and ask a question.
Thank you, Tony.
Thank you, Tony.
Thanks, guys. We'll talk to you later.
Take care.
Bye-bye.